Self-evident truths. Endowed with rights. Consent of the governed.
In this lesson, we focus on the Declaration of Independence, not as a history test, but as a complete piece of meaning-driven English. So what is the Declaration actually about? First, it explains why the American colonies believed they had the right to break away from British rule. It opens by stating that some truths are self-evident, ideas that do not need to be proven. Next, the document defines core principles: that all people are born equal, that people naturally possess rights, and that governments exist to protect those rights. Then, the Declaration argues that power comes from the consent of the governed. In other words, people agree to be ruled, not forced. After laying out these ideas, the document lists specific grievances against the British king. These are detailed complaints about unfair laws, unjust taxes, and repeated abuses of power, written in formal legal English. Finally, the Declaration reaches its conclusion. Because these rights were repeatedly violated, the colonies declare themselves free and independent states. So, in one single document, the Declaration contains a statement of universal principles, an explanation of political authority, a list of concrete complaints, and a final declaration of independence. In this video, you'll learn how these ideas are expressed through advanced English vocabulary, long, carefully structured sentences, and formal tone, and how this historical language still shapes modern English today. Now that you understand the full picture, let's move on to the first dialogue and explore how these ideas are expressed in real language.
Most people think old historical documents are difficult to understand.
But the Declaration of Independence was written to explain ideas, not to confuse people.
It begins by saying that some truths are self-evident.
That means these truths are obvious and do not require proof.
The document also says that people are endowed with certain rights.
In simple terms, these rights exist naturally and are not given by the government.
This language reflects the belief that all people are born equal,
And that governments exist to protect those rights, not to control them.
After explaining its core ideas, the Declaration lists specific complaints.
These complaints are directed at the British king.
For example, it criticizes taxes imposed without consent.
It also mentions unfair laws and the abuse of power.
The language is formal and legal, but the message is clear.
When a government repeatedly violates people's rights, it loses its legitimacy.
That is why the colonies believed separation was necessary.
Let's review the most important phrases you'll hear and understand when reading the Declaration of Independence. Repeat after me. Self-evident truths. Endowed with rights. Consent of the governed. Unalienable rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Model sentence. All governments are created to protect unalienable rights, and their power comes from the consent of the governed. These key phrases will help you understand formal and academic English, analyze historical and political texts, and discuss complex ideas confidently in real academic and cultural contexts.
Subscribe and keep learning English with real stories.